Welcome to Ecamm. Today I'm going to talk to you about designing for dual mode. There's some very important tips to keep in mind while you're designing your shows for dual mode, because in Ecamm, we do things a little bit different. Rather than cropping your standard traditional landscape or horizontal feed and just picking whatever the algorithm thing goes in the middle, we allow you to intentionally design for each platform, because each platform is looking for a specific thing. It also allows you to give the best possible output for your viewers, your audience, your students, your parishioners, the people that came to see your webinars, your coaching clients, whoever it is. You know who you're talking to. I don't. But let me show you some things that are super, super important as we do this. What I'm going to do is go into the demo mode of Ecamm and show you a layout that I built. Now, I'm not going to go through every individual step. I do have a longer version of the whole step-by-step as I built it, and I'll put a link to that so you can get to it and see it if you want to watch the whole thing. But this is more about just the ideas to keep in mind, because I want to keep this video short. And you know, if I get to talking, we'll be here 6 weeks. Let's pop into the live demo mode here on Ecamm, and you'll see here is my layout, and this is my standard default scene. This is what you're normally used to seeing, but you'll see here's my main camera here, and then there's another version of me over there. So if I was building out an intro scene here, what I did was I used the full camera space as you normally would because it's effective. But on the vertical stream, instead of having the camera come all the way down to the bottom, which would put the lower third in the middle of the face, I intentionally left part of that out of the way, because when comments come on the vertical side, comments will end up at the bottom and they tend to take up space. So I'm leaving room for the UI or the user interface on some of those vertical platforms. What you'll also notice is when I put the lower third here, I still left plenty of space at the bottom, because again, each platform is different, but on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, so forth, etc., there's a lot of excess things going on down here on the bottom of the screen, and we just want to make room for that. Now, when you're designing an Ecamm, there is these little blue boxes that light up as you get close to the edge. Those are designed to let you know this is about the safe area. Try not to go beyond that. You want to stay tight inside those regions, because it goes a long way to helping ensure that you are keeping things where people can see them. Now, remember, as you're designing these things, the goal is to design them so that you're treating each canvas as its own intentional layout, rather than just duplicating the same design for both, because on some of the vertical formats, some things are just going to be too tiny and no one's really going to be able to see them. So keep that in mind. So let me show you what a typical interview layout looks like. I have myself, I have my guest, and on the vertical feed, what I did was just basically make smaller versions of myself and the guest. But every once in a while, you get to a part where your guest is going deep. They're talking about something a little bit, let's say, personal, or you want to just give that effect that they are the SMEs, the subject matter expert. I made a duplicate copy of this scene that just has the guest live front and center. Let me temporarily place myself there so you can get an idea what it looks like, where I literally just have the guest front and center by themselves, where they will be the star of the show. They are attracting attention, and this works phenomenally. Now, if I happen to be in a Zoom setup where I'm bringing guests in from Zoom, I could actually set this particular camera to what is known as the Zoom speaker camera, and it will automatically rotate according to whomever's talking in the Zoom, which is really, really handy. So you don't have to do so much work in the back end trying to cut everything up and have some AI program try to figure out who's talking when, where. This is where you, again, intentionally design this layout. I'm gonna put my guest back there before I forget when I go to use this later. But that's one thing you could do. Also, I did want to make sure that I'm not putting too many comments on this. So although on the vertical stream, I would ignore the comment, mention it or talk about it, but I'm not going to put it on the screen, because it's going to, again, over-occupy that space. But on the horizontal layout, I'll have the comment placeholder there so that we can comment. Let's take a look at what screen shares look like. Now, screen shares on vertical format is a little difficult, but many cases, I would still put it there, but I would remind everybody, if it's hard for them to see, they could always make their way over to the horizontal stream. Like I'll say, hey, people watching on IG Live, if you're having a hard time seeing the screen, jump over to the YouTube feed and you'll have a better opportunity to see it, because we have it all set up. But I did leave space for the comments, because that way I can engage with those people so they don't feel left out, even though they can't see very well. But I'm always going to have those comments over here on the horizontal side as well. So again, you're thinking about this intentionally. You're designing for each platform so that each platform has the best setup, right? So that each of those individual users are getting good value. They know what they came for, things of that nature. Now, let's take this one step further. Let's say I want to share something along with the guest. So I have the guest screen share here. Now, I don't want the guest to be missing from the screen. So instead of a camera in a square, I put myself and the guest into little bubbles. Again, let me temporarily place my other me in the bubble so you pretend like we're two people talking, and then I could do something of that nature, and I have that screen share down here. If I were going to have multiple people on, maybe I would convert these guys into little squircles. And let me do the second one here. And then, of course, I could easily duplicate that to add an additional person, realizing, forgot the option key. Let me put that back. Realizing that, I might get into the area where people might put comments on the screen. I would make this camera easily turned off so that when I press the comment, it would come up. And then when I make the comment go away, maybe I could turn the camera back off. These are things you could do with a multi-stream deck button, but like to keep those things in mind. And please let me put this back before I forget. So that's how I would do that. And again, ample space for comments because, people are going to comment on the screen shares. Then one of my favorites, allowing those people in the audience to be stars of the show. Have a comment set up where the comment's going to take over and just be the whole comment. Like there's no you on screen, there's no SMEs or subject matter experts / guests on screen. You're just going to have a whole entire comment panel where you and the guest can sit there and go through hands-on with the individual people and make them feel like they're part of the show. And then last but not least, I would have my closing scene, which has a movie. I won't play that because it'll start making noise. But you can see when you're designing for dual mode, if you design intensely, you will set your layouts so that they look the way they look. As you can see, designing for dual mode can save you a lot of time in both your live stream productions as well as your pre-recorded videos because it allows you to produce two separate formats at one time. And remember, you're not producing one show, you're producing two, one for each independent format. And this saves you a lot of time, but it also allows you to provide the best value for your audience and the people who are watching your content, right? Keep a couple things in mind. If you are a type of person when you're doing, say, a webinar or some training where you put yourself off center so that you have room for graphics and things here, when you set up your vertical streams, keep your primary camera framed in the center. You also want to avoid placing too many important overlays close to the edges and try to keep them less busy on the vertical streams. If you have animations and twirlies and pop-ups, you probably don't want to do as many of those in the vertical stream. They just don't play as well because they're tiny. And well, there's UI things in the way. There's interface where there's the like button or the hate button, thumbs down button, or comments coming through. So you want to keep that stuff in mind. And don't forget, always test and see how your scenes look on both canvases. Do some test recordings or some test live streams and see how everything's fitting up and make those minor adjustments. Those tiny little adjustments can go a long way to, again, connecting with your audience and delivering the best value. So record those tests, play it back, and see how it looks. Dual mode completely allows you to place overlays in different places. So don't just automatically copy them and make them look the same. Again, it won't play as well. A couple other things to keep in mind are your horizontal layouts, include more graphics, have multiple guests, add lower thirds, branding, that whole thing that just makes it really you. But on the vertical layouts, one primary speaker whenever possible, stack cameras whenever possible. Keep these things a little bit tighter so it makes your job easier and then everybody can sort of just hang out with you. So again, remember, it's two shows in one recording format. That's what dual mode is all about. Widescreen for the traditional platforms, vertical experience optimized for mobile viewers, and really, really good to growing your profile, expanding your brand, and making you look good. And you know what we say around here? When you look good, we look good. With a little planning, you can reach not only two audience, but new audience without doubling your workload. That's dual mode in a nutshell. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, drop them down in the comment section below. And right about now, the algorithm is going to show you another video they think you should watch, and I agree with them.